I'd been on the road too long. The kind of drive where the darkness feels endless. When the storm hit, I pulled off at the first sign of light. A flickering neon glow that read, "The Night Shift Diner. Open 24 hours." The lot was deserted except for a rusted sedan sinking into weeds. Inside, the air smelled of stale coffee and old grease. Every booth sat empty, yet the coffee pot behind the counter still steamed, fresh as if waiting for someone. "Hello?" I called. No answer, just silence thick enough to feel. I poured a cup and sat by the window, watching rain blur the world outside. All I wanted was a little warmth. Then I noticed the fog on the glass across from me. Someone had drawn 3 stick figures holding hands. One was crossed out. But the moment I did, "Anyone back there?" I called again. No reply. The sound grew louder, closer, like someone dragging something heavy across the tiles. The air turned cold enough to sting my skin. I could see my breath when I reached the counter. The kitchen door swung slightly, revealing plates of food still steaming, pancakes, eggs, coffee. It looked fresh, like breakfast waiting for someone who'd just stepped away. I was about to turn when the radio beside me clicked on by itself. Static filled the room, followed by a garbled voice. "He's still here." I froze. My cup slipped from my hand and shattered. "Who's there?" I asked, but the voice was gone. Only static remained. Then came the footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoing from the dining area. Through the gap beneath the counter, I saw boots, mud-caked, unmoving. Whoever wore them stood facing the window. His reflection was wrong, taller, stretched, almost trembling. He lifted a hand and traced on the fogged glass again. I bolted. The door slammed shut as I grabbed the handle, refusing to budge. My reflection in the glass rippled, and there was a figure behind me. I didn't look. I threw my shoulder into the door until it gave, stumbling into the rain. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. My heart didn't slow down for hours. A week later, another driver laughed when I told him, "Buddy, that diner burned down years ago. Guy killed his family inside, then torched the place. I went back once, just to see. Nothing stood there except blackened wood and twisted metal. But on a cracked window frame, faint beneath soot, someone had drawn 3 stick figures. The middle one was still crossed out." It was late 1998, and I was driving through thick autumn fog, miles from the nearest town. The highway stretched on endlessly, empty except for the occasional distant headlights. My gas gauge hovered near empty, and every mile felt longer than the last. Then, through the haze, I saw neon lights Miller's Diner. Relief hit me like a wave. The red brick building gleamed under the flickering sign, chrome trim catching what little light there was. Gravel crunched beneath my tires as I pulled in, the quiet of the night broken only by my arrival. Inside, the diner was almost empty. A single waitress stood behind the counter, her pale face half lit by the flickering fluorescent lights. "Coffee?" she asked softly. I nodded, grateful for any kind of warmth. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured the cup. I sat at a booth near the window. Steam curled lazily from my coffee, twisting into the cool air like smoke. Outside, the fog pressed against the glass, swallowing the world beyond the parking lot. The silence inside was thick and oppressive. Every clink of the cup against the saucer echoed unnaturally, bouncing around the room like a sound in a tunnel. "Long night?" I tried asking. The waitress didn't respond. She didn't even look at me. Her reflection in the window seemed off somehow, her features sharper, her expression frozen. I told myself it was exhaustion, playing tricks on my eyes. Long drives do that to you. but the uneasy pressure in my chest wouldn't let up. As I waited for my coffee to cool, my gaze wandered to the photos, lining the walls black and white, and sepia-toned pictures of past employees smiling proudly in front of the same diner. Then one photo made my breath catch. It was dated 1976, and standing in the center was the waitress. The same woman, same hair, same eyes, same faint smile. My stomach dropped. I turned toward the counter. She was gone. The stool was empty, no movement in the kitchen, no sound at all. The little bell above the door hadn't rung. The air felt wrong, heavy, like the diner itself was holding its breath. I tried to tell myself it was fatigue, that I'd imagined her disappearing. But my instinct screamed otherwise. My shaking hands reached for the coffee cup just to feel something real. Then I ran. I threw open the door and stepped into the fog. I just wanted gas, a way to leave. But when I reached the pump, I saw the nozzle was broken, rusted tight, the entire station useless. My heart sank. That's when I heard the voice behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. The waitress stood in the doorway. Her eyes were hollow, her face emotionless, yet her voice trembled like wind through dry leaves. "We closed a long time ago," she whispered. My pulse exploded in my ears. I bolted to the car, fumbling with my keys. The engine hesitated for a heartbeat before roaring to life. As I pulled out, I risked one glance in the rearview mirror. The diner was flickering, its lights flashing like a broken film reel. Then, in the next blink, it was gone. The building, the neon glow, the chrome, everything replaced by empty, fog-covered fields. I drove faster than I ever had before. Eyes fixed on the endless road, terrified that if I looked back, I'd see her standing in the fog. I didn't stop until the first light of dawn bled across the sky. I finally pulled into a small gas station on the outskirts of a town I didn't recognize. My hands were still shaking as I filled the tank. The clerk behind the counter stared at me. "You all right?" he asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a weak laugh. "Do you know anything about Miller's Diner? Just off the highway?" "Kay." His face went pale. "Miller's?" he repeated. "That place burned down in the 80s. Gas leak. Whole staff didn't make it. See," the words hit me like ice water. I didn't say another word. I just nodded, left the cash on the counter, and walked out. Before driving off, I looked in the mirror again. For a moment, just a heartbeat, I thought I saw her standing in the fog, holding a coffee pot, steam rising like smoke. Then she was gone. Only the empty road remained. Weeks later, I did something stupid. I went back. I told myself I just wanted to see the spot in daylight, to prove to myself that what I'd seen wasn't real. The drive was eerily familiar. The same bends in the road, the same mist, though thinner now under the sun. Eventually, I reached it, the place where Miller's Diner should have been, but there was nothing. No building, no sign, no trace that a diner had ever existed, just weeds cracking through asphalt and the faint, lingering scent of something burned long ago. I stood there, the wind whistling around me. When out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement, a shadow, just beyond the fog. A woman. She stood, perfectly still, holding a coffee pot. Steam curled upward, like smoke from a fire that wasn't there. I didn't wait. I jumped in my car and drove off as fast as I could. And I never looked back. Some roads keep their secrets for a reason. Some things are better left unseen. Living alone felt like freedom until I realized the vents might be hiding more than dust. I'd just turned 26, moved into my first real apartment. A 5-story brick building downtown. Classy from the outside, but inside it groaned and creaked. The lobby smelled of wax and stale smoke. and the elevator protested every floor. Apartment 5B was mine, small, quiet, with a shaky little balcony. Across the hall lived an older man in 5C. On my first day, he held the elevator door open and said softly, "Welcome. Walls are thin." Then he walked away. 3 nights later, I woke to a sound. Tap, tap, tap. Steady, deliberate, coming from the wall behind my bed. Too even to be pipes, too real to ignore. I sat up and listened. The tapping stopped. I waited. Then, after a few seconds, 3 more taps. Exact rhythm, precise spacing. My heart started pounding. Against my better judgment, I raised my knuckles and tapped back 1, 2, 3. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, as if answering me, 3 taps echoed from the other side. I froze. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, but I forced a nervous laugh and told myself it had to be a neighbor. Still, curiosity got the better of me the next day. I looked up the floor plan for the building online, the apartment that shared my bedroom wall. That evening, I ran into him again by the mailboxes. He looked worse than before, his skin pale and sickly, dark circles heavy under his eyes. He leaned in slightly and whispered, "You shouldn't stay up so late. People hear things they shouldn't." I stood there, unsure what to say. When I finally turned the key to my door and looked back, he was still there, motionless, staring down the empty hallway. That night, every sound in the building felt amplified. Every creak, every distant footstep seemed too close, like someone was moving inside the walls. A week later, the tapping came back louder this time, and underneath it, I heard something else, a whisper. Muffled words that sent a shiver through me. I pressed my ear against the wall and strained to listen. "Don't tell them I'm still here." My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back, my stomach twisting in panic. The next morning, I called the building superintendent. I told him about the noises, about the tapping coming from 5C. He frowned. "What? No. I've seen the man who lives there. Last week." "You mean Mr. Holbrook?" he asked slowly. "He died of a heart attack 3 weeks ago. The unit's been locked ever since." I felt my knees go weak. My mouth went dry. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound seemed louder, closer, as if the building was breathing. The shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. Around 1 in the morning, I heard it again, tap, tap, tap. But this time, it wasn't coming from the wall. It was coming from above me, the vent. I climbed onto my desk, hard hammering, and shone my phone's flashlight into the metal slats. The vent was dark and cold. I leaned closer, squinting, and in that moment, I saw it. An eye. It blinked once before vanishing into the darkness. I screamed, stumbling backward and knocking over a lamp. By the time I looked again, I called the police. They searched both apartments. They unlocked 5C with the master key. Dust covered everything, boxes, old newspapers, broken furniture, but no one was there. No trace of anyone living inside. I moved my bed to the far side of the room and stayed awake until sunrise, every muscle tense, listening to the faint hum of the vents above me. 2 nights later, I noticed the vent cover was loose again. Hands trembling, I climbed onto the desk, unscrewed it, and reached inside. My fingers brushed something cold. I pulled out a small stack of Polaroid photos, held together with a rubber band. My blood ran cold. Every picture was of me, sleeping, eating, working at my desk, completely unaware. The most recent photo was dated 2 days ago. When the police came back, they tore apart 5C again. This time, behind a strip of wallpaper, they found a thin, false wall. Inside was a tiny hidden space, a sleeping bag, half-eaten food, a flashlight, and a narrow hole leading straight into the vents. Someone had been using the ducts to move between apartments. Watching people. Watching me. Fingerprints didn't match any resident. The man I'd met, the one who joked about thin walls, wasn't Mr. Holbrook. He was an intruder, living inside the walls long after the real tenant had died. They never caught him. I moved out the next morning, leaving almost everything behind. I couldn't stay another second. Months later, a voicemail came from the new tenant of 5B. I found something in the vent. It's a photo of you, sleeping.